Hey friends, welcome to the Empowered Homes Podcast. The purpose of this podcast is to grow strong families by connecting church and home. I'm joined with Megan. Megan, what's up?
Hey, how you doing?
Doing good. We have a great episode today. I'm super excited about it. We have, I'll mispronounce her name.
Rania Mankarious.
Rania Mankarious. Yes. Fascinating. She wrote a book, The Online World, What You Think You Know and What You Don't. So we sit down and we talk with her. This book is pretty extensive, but it's also can be super scary.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I met her at an equipping event. I mentioned that in there. And I left with a little bit of like fear of the online. I knew that online world for our kids and even for us sometimes is scary. But like half of me was like, we're not going to do online. Like we're just going to shut it down.
Yeah, let's just go
yeah.
find somewhere to be not online.
But from that, I wanted to invite her on the podcast. And I'm so glad that we did because she just gives such amazing tools and practical strategies, which of course we're all about here.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to be encouraging for parents to listen.
Yeah. She's super blunt, go straight after the heart of what parents are facing, what we're struggling with, what we got going on. And the book, I mean, we just kind of scratched the surface with her of what she writes in here, but the book's really good. So super excited about that. Before we jump to our interview with her, Megan, we with Empowered Homes, we got some exciting stuff coming up. We've got a new series with season 4 of the podcast. What are some highlights that we have for the listeners just to be on the lookout for? Yeah,
well, we're starting off with technology and online world through the podcast. And so we're going to have several episodes that touch on that and just equip us as parents. And hopefully you'll find that to be encouraging to have conversations. That's what we talk about, conversations with your kids about navigating some scary things in technology. And so that's where we're starting with the podcast.
Yeah, we got some exciting updates coming this fall with the website, with different stuff. You'll be on the lookout for all those things. But we're looking forward to a lot of things. As we go, we're kind of changing the format a little bit of the podcast to have this little intro time for many things to highlight, what's coming with Empowered Homes. We can do all that stuff, but also highlight some of our partners. We've grown and expanded with Empowered Homes to have some like-hearted partnerships with some really cool organizations and different people, and super excited to be partnering with Dad Tired. Jared Lopes. If you don't know anything about Dad Tired, go to dadtired.com. He's got an incredible podcast. He's been on this podcast several times.
I think that's the most watched episode or listened to episode at the time.
And Jared, he's become a good buddy, and so we're actually going to be going. Empowered Homes is helping sponsor the Dad Tired Retreat that'll be in September 22nd through the 24th up in Arkansas.
You're road tripping?
Yeah, Shepherd of the Ozarks. We're taking a group of dads from here there, but anybody's welcome to go find it, figure it out. Go to dadtired.com. If you're listening, you're like, man, I'd like to be a part of that. Go check it out. Empowered Homes will be up there representing and get to pour into some dads up there, but also just we want to partner with other like-hearted people to promote what they have going on. If you're a dad that just wants more content and you're looking for a great podcast to listen to, I know every dad's listening to Empowered Homes podcast, but if you want another one with Jared, I share it with several guys all the time as we listen to it together. But super excited about that coming up. So ministry partnerships, and then just kind of looking ahead before we get into the interview. Megan, thinking about Empowered Homes, thinking about what we have going on. I know one of the big things is we're trying to get folks on social media.
Yeah.
So where can people find us on social media? Follow us.
Hey, we have a presence on Instagram and Facebook. Right now, the name is Empowered Homes Resources, and so we want you to follow us there. And then you can also follow our podcast on YouTube or on any platform that you listen. And we would love if you would subscribe or like or follow or whatever you can do on those platforms, because that just helps us get the word out about Empowered Homes, and it helps us to encourage other parents and families and grandparents. And so if you'd be willing to help us, would you like or subscribe when you go listen to something, or like you're listening to this, subscribe, and even throw in a comment. That really does help.
Yeah, comment. When you see on Instagram, follow us on Instagram, you see something like, oh, that's really good. Like, say something, comment, interact with this, because it helps us interact with more folks and get the word out of everything that Empowered Homes has to offer, which is a perfect segue, talking about the online world.
That's right.
With our interview, talking about technology and online presence with our kids. So you're going to be blessed by this interview. Check it out. If you got any questions or anything, email us at podcast@empoweredhomes.org. Hey friends, welcome to the Empowered Homes podcast. The purpose of this podcast is to connect church and home by growing strong families. Today I got Megan in studio. Megan, welcome.
Hello. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, we're super excited. And then we have on Zoom a special guest. Megan, introduce, because you put all this together. This is really your thing, and I wanted you to be part of this conversation. So
yes, well, we're excited to welcome Rania Mankarious, and I met Rania at a parent equipping event at a local school, and she was talking about her book, The Online World: What You Think You Know and What You Don't. And it was an awesome training, but I left there like with equal amounts of fear and wanting to shut down the whole internet out of my house, but then also with some hope, because she really put together some great tools and strategies. And so I wanted to have her on the podcast. So welcome to the Empowered Homes podcast, Rania. We're so glad that you're here.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so thrilled to be here.
Yeah. We're super excited to have you. And, as we get into this, one of the biggest things parents talk to us all the time is about technology, and to be able to offer some insight and perspective from your perspective, I'm super excited about. So before we jump into the book and all the content, who are you for our listeners?
Well, Rania Mankarious. I'm the CEO of Crime Stoppers of Houston, and have been with Crime Stoppers since I moved to Houston. I've been there since 2006. Originally born and raised in Boston, Massachusetts. I'm a lawyer with a master's degree in marriage and family therapy, which I did at a Christian seminary up in New England. And I just have a really sort of strange, I don't know, it's because I've always had it, love for family people, but also conversations that have solutions. I don't know how this started or where it started in me, or I kind of have an idea. My parents were immigrants and moved to this country, and we always had conversations around the dinner table about how are you going to contribute and what are you going to do. And so I think that's sort of the foundation. But I'm very, very honored and proud to be running Crime Stoppers of Houston. It's an incredible nonprofit. And through my years there with a love for family, and being a mom of three, I've really tended to focus on sort of the hot button issues for families. And the last 5 to 10 years for me, that's really been online safety. There isn't a place or a family, a culture, a part of the city or county or state or even country that I go to where parents are not having the same concerns when it comes to the safety of their kids. And so it's been a personal interest of mine for a long time.
Yeah. And, hearing your heart and your passion, it just bleeds out into the book, which I want to talk about the book. So I've got a copy here for the viewers looking. It's a lot. There's a lot in here. You mentioned, this heart. Like, tell me your heart behind putting all this content together in the book.
Well, I'll tell you, I've spent a lot of time talking to families and talking to experts that would say, the online space is so dangerous. Kids just have to stay off of it completely. Talking to kids that say, I don't know how I found myself in this position. I don't know how I shared the information I shared. I don't know how to get out of the situation I'm in, and I'm scared. I've talked to a lot of parents that have wanted to pull their hair out because they're trying to monitor, they're trying to follow, they're trying to learn the latest app, and they just can't keep up. And all of this is very, very real, but we also have to look at reality and we have to look at solutions. And it's not possible in a tech-driven world, especially post-COVID, to say, okay, I'm going to keep my kids offline. That's not possible. It's also not possible as a parent to know every single emerging change in technology. It's just not possible. But there are solutions. It is possible to equip your children, and I say from 8 to 28, with strategies and tools to keep them safe online. And I really do believe that. Nothing is fully perfect. We still have to be vigilant and aware of all the issues. But this isn't a lost cause. And for me, there's always hope. There's always a solution. There's always a strategy. And it's simple. And I really wanted to make it simple. Now, as we talk about it, I'm going to tell you right now, parents listening, you may not like some of the things that I'm saying, but listen, because I'm telling you, I've sort of spent so much time talking to kids and figuring out their language and what works with them, what gets them to understand things consistently through time. And I've used those tools to equip kids moving forward. So you might hear some of these things and go, wait, no way. But give it a minute, and then you'll say, well, actually, wait a minute, that makes sense. And if you bring it to your kids, they'll say, wow, that really does make sense.
Yeah, that's the way I felt after I sat and listened to you, and your heart behind all of that was like, okay, there is hope for this, even though it feels overwhelming. And so we so appreciate that we get to talk through all of this with you, and that you can share all of your expertise and all of your research that you've done.
Yeah, share the silver bullet, the magic, the pill with a thing that makes it all perfect. But in your book, as we're jumping into this, the section 1, these online foundations that you have, what are some of the findings that you had that, jump off that you just want parents to know? Like, what are the stats and statistics that you're like, hey, parents, y'all need to know these things. This is what's happening.
Well, I'll start with, one of the biggest is that a lot of parents think that if they tell their kids, just stay offline, you're not going to get you a phone, I don't want you near technology, then that's sort of the end of the conversation. And that's not true, because pre-COVID, studies would show that almost 80% of parents realize they actually have no idea if their kids are on technology or what they might be doing on technology. We know that pre-COVID, an overwhelming number of kids had been exposed to pornography, but post-COVID, we're seeing 90% of children exposed to pornography as young as 8 years old. We also know that pre-COVID, nearly 80% of kids, as I said, were not just hiding what they were doing. They were like mini trained experts in keeping their parents completely in the dark. And now those numbers have only increased post-COVID as more kids are online. A few other numbers jump out. On any given day, the FBI says there are anywhere between 500,000 and 750,000 predators online looking to communicate or interact with at least 10 children. That's at any given moment online. And those numbers are what we know. Certainly, they're much higher. We know that kids have easy access to drugs, to pills that might be laced with fentanyl. They have easy access to predators and to really, really dangerous exposure. So it's important that parents who sort of live in this world of, but I'm raising such great kids, and we're in a great Christian home. And not only that, but we move to this area to go to this great school, or we send them to the best private schools in town. I know their friends. I know their parents. This stuff is just not in my world. I want to just say it may not be in your immediate physical world, but it's very, very, very possibly in your children's digital world, where a place where all those walls we build up don't really apply. They don't really create the boundaries you think they do. And so that's why it's important to say, I'm going to understand the technology and risks and dangers, as hard and as overwhelming as it is. I'm also going to understand that I can't really keep them off of this technology, because if I say they can't be on it, they're going to be on it and they're going to hide it from me. So I want to look to solutions. And that's where I've spent a lot of time. What are some solutions that are not scary? They're not overwhelming. They're easy. They create a roadmap. They're easy to understand. They're evergreen. And your kids will get them too. And so that's sort of where I've spent a lot of time. I think knowing the statistics, but also knowing the myths that parents tell themselves, it's an important place to start.
Yeah, it's understanding the reality of what's happening. And I think, for even me and my kids and my wife, and thinking through, my son just got his first cell phone, and we're, we prayed through that. We made him sign a contract. We talked through it. I trust him. I trust him so much. Like, I'm so proud of who he is and his character. But it didn't stop me from spending hours figuring out how to lock that thing down and do all the stuff. And so I think for parents, like, there is a reality of the world that's going on. You look at the statistics, you look at all that stuff. We can't put our head in the sand and just act like this isn't real. And I think there's some parents that they would prefer to put their head in the sand and not do that. And so I'm so grateful for you bringing light into this darkness. And so in your book, you talk about those strategies, but those 4 powerful tools, can we break those down? Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's start with the first one.
So before I even dive into them, I'll tell you, I loved hearing about your strategy with your son, because I think the base of your strategy was conversation.
Yeah.
And we've got to be having conversations with our kids. I think we start those conversations as young as 8 years old, maybe even 5. And what does that look like? Well, an 8-year-old, a 5-year-old is not going to have their own cell phone, but a lot of them have their own iPads, and a lot of them use their parents' phones, watching Netflix or maybe playing a kid's app, a kid's learning game. Even a lot of kids are given technology at a very young age. And so starting those conversations really young, hey, you're going to play an ABC game. That's great. Are you going to create an avatar? What does your avatar look like? Getting them to think of what their presence will look like in the digital space. You're going to play Roblox as a young kid, early elementary school. You don't have your own phone, but you have access to technology. Okay, well, who are you going to talk to in the game? And is everybody nice, or are people mean? Sort of starting those conversations really, really young, because by the time they get that phone, you're giving them this incredible responsibility, and you want them to handle it wisely. So now here we are. You have a young child that has access to technology. And remember, my thesis is they've had it all along. It's just now parents are sort of coming to realize that they have it. We want to set kids up down a pathway that they are making good decisions, whether we see the technology they're using or don't, whether we know who they're talking to or we don't, whether we can lock the phones down or we can't. We want them to make good decisions on their own, because ultimately 2 rules sort of jump in my head. Kids versus parents versus technology is not a fair fight. Kids will win every time. If they want to hide something from you or remove parent controls, they're going to do it. But here's the other rule. Predators versus kids versus technology is not a fair fight, and predators will always win. And so how do we move forward? My first power tool, and again, parents, you're not going to like it. I know. But when you hear me present, and especially if you see me present to kids, you start to understand. Kids are like, wait a minute, this woman is making sense. But it's asking kids why they're in the digital space. Why are they gaming? Why are they online? Why are they chatting with friends? What are they hoping to get out of the technology? And so few parents I've found have ever really sat to ask that question. Why are you there? And by the way, I'm not blaming anybody. Kids might say, I love gaming. Okay, great. Kids might say, I think I'm a very strong soccer player, and I might have an option to have a full scholarship to school one day, or tennis, or you might need a public profile. Great. I just want to start at the basics. Why are you in this space, and what are you hoping to achieve? Because that answer will help a child develop their brand. And I know your kids are not a brand, but in the online space and in the digital space, if they can think of themselves that way, they have a digital fingerprint. Every like, every comment, every share, every chat group they belong to, every Facebook group or Instagram or Snapchat or whatever platforms, all of it leaves traces of their digital fingerprint. It's traces of who they are online and who they appear to be. It's their brand. If kids can start thinking in that space, they're going to actually start thinking twice before they like anything, comment on anything, share anything, claim ownership of anything. They're going to say, wait a minute, this small digital movement doesn't align with my brand. And that gives them sort of, you start to turn all this gray and all this craziness into a little bit of a black and white roadmap for them. They'll say, well, my best friend posted that, but it's actually kind of rude. It's hurtful. That's not what the comment I want to be aligned with. So I'm going to just ignore that, or maybe talk to them, be a disruptor of that and say, that's not funny. Little things like that. Conversations parents have never really had with their kids. Tool number one helps them define their brand, who they are going to be in this space. And by the way, those are conversations you have all the time. It's not just one and done. It's all the time. It's going to constantly evolving and changing, but it's going to give them a sense of ownership and purpose and direction, no matter where they are in the digital space.
Megan, that's just thinking of the brand on your digital fingerprint. I walk my kids to school every day, and I ask them, what does it mean to be a coolie? And so I'm telling them, go into that school to be a leader, to be kind, get back up when you fail, and to know God and make him known. Like, I'm already doing that in the real world.
That's awesome.
There's no reason we shouldn't be doing the same for the digital world. And that's fascinating, because I don't know, Meg, when I think of brand, I think of all like the big corporations and all of that stuff, and like, oh, they got a bad brand, or we're canceling this person now because of this, and a lot of that's their digital footprint. But like, it makes so much sense to me, like to put it in that terms.
Oh yeah, and I think it removes that kind of myth of like they think that they can be somebody different online than who they really are supposed to be, or who they are, or who they want to be, And so just having those conversations, and our heart at Empowered Homes is like totally around conversation and extended conversation with our kids, and how that plays in all of life. And so I love that it's kind of this holistic view, but also you talked about that when I saw you, but using a brand, because everybody understands what a brand is. And essentially, online, like that we do in many ways, we can be selling ourselves, right? Or our information is being sold, or who we are is being sold to an algorithm of things to try to gain our attention. And so it's important that our kids know that. And I think that's probably, part of that heart behind that first tool.
Yeah. And that, before we jump to the next one with brand, like, how do you help parents help their kids understand their brand? But if I'm looking at it, I'm embarrassed if my kid messes up online. Like, you're messing up my brand as a parent. Like, what do you say to those parents?
Well, one of the things I talk about in the book before I get to the 4 power tools is having a family plan. You and your spouse having a plan of how you're going to, or you want to handle technology in the home, and expanding that rule to all the other caretakers in the home, and involving your kids in what the family values are, what the family plan is, that are based in the family values. I think that's really important. So feel buy-in and ownership in this decision and in the solutions and what the strategy is for the family. They understand why you're asking them to be one way or the other. As they develop their brand, we've got to be fair, and we've got to be honest. Telling your child, well, you're just not going to be online, is not fair in this current climate. And I'm telling you, from years of doing this, in the greatest Christian homes to completely secular homes, and it doesn't really matter, the kids that are denied full access, over 90% of the time, have full access without their parents' knowledge. And in those cases, they're doing whatever they want, no guidance, nobody's watching. So it's important to start by being fair. Why do you want to be on this space? What is your goal? And how can we help you achieve it? Let's go back to who we are as a family. What is the message you want to portray about yourself? You're kind, you're funny, you're talented, you're an athlete, you're a Christian, you're an intellectual. You might just have a quiet persona online. You might just be there to watch what other people are doing and to quietly engage. All of it is okay, but come up with strategy. And when I really outline it in the book, I say every place you touch online, that digital fingerprint, you are a participant in something, meaning you're the go-getter, the creator of some type of content. You're an enabler, which means you're kind of like cheering something on, good or bad, like liking something or sharing something. You're a bystander, which means you're just kind of closing your mouth and not saying anything, even though you're watching violent stuff, you're viewing it, or you're really just watching and consuming things, but you're just not saying anything. Or you're a disruptor. You're saying, no, this is wrong. I'm not going to participate by either commenting or doing something that stops. You can talk your child through this. And then when they make a mistake, it's really important. It's so important that kids feel like there's hope after the mistake. I can't tell you, when you look at suicidal ideation and suicide itself, the numbers have gone up so drastically, often because kids have made a mistake online and they feel like there's absolutely no turning back from it. They feel like there's no way to erase that mistake, and their parents are going to be disappointed. They've disgraced the family. We've got to let our kids know that no matter what, even mistakes, we can always get past it. We can always fix it. We can always work together to make it right. And we will always love you above and beyond any choice you make.
That's right. Yep. That's so good. So first power tool, develop your brand. The second one is what?
So based on why you're in the space and what you're trying to do, we need to define who's going to consume your content. And that's a big thing. We've got to get our kids to understand that they always have an audience. And look, they know that. They want to be consumed. There's so many studies that show that kids today in the digital space, whether they're gaming or chatting, whatever area it is, they kind of want to be consumed. So that means we need them to start thinking about who's on the other side. Who is in your community? We've got to define who that group is, because we need them to understand that it's more than their best friends. It's more than their best friends today who turn frenemies tomorrow, who turn enemies the next day. It's more than a current boyfriend or girlfriend or past boyfriend or girlfriend. It's also filled with teachers and parents, friends, coaches, future bosses, school community, school leadership, college leadership. It's also filled with people who do not have good intentions, predators, people who want to scam you and commit financial crimes against you. There's a long list. So in the book, I actually go through what that community really looks like, because I need kids to think beyond, well, anyone who follows me and consumes my content just likes me and that's fine. And anybody who chats with me is probably just harmless and it's not really a big deal. No, I want them to go through the cognitive exercise of all the different types of people. Again, I'm not saying be offline. No, I'm not saying don't talk to anybody. No, I'm saying I want them to take ownership of who could potentially be consuming and engaging with them, because I want the kids to be part of the solution.
It's no different defining the community online as it is in real life. It goes back to the same principles. I'm thinking of my own kids, like who am I letting them hang out with or be around, or situations I'm going to put them in, or all of those things. And I mean, it's you're making this sound like super profound, but it's really common sense that all parents need to know, and it's really good.
It's one thing I'll just say. We're so overwhelmed by technology because we feel like we don't understand technology and we don't understand all the latest apps, and I don't know what the latest games are, and so we forget to apply common sense principles. Yeah. We can turn this really vast, scary place into a very easy to navigate, tangible space if we just go back to the basics.
So good.
That's powerful. You got anything before we jump to number 3?
No, that's excellent. I'm excited for number 3.
Yeah, number 3 is a good one. What's number 3?
Number 3 was the hardest part of the book to write. Actually, it's the second hardest part of the book. I'll tell you, the first hardest part is when I was writing the book, there were over 2 million apps in the Apple Store and over 3.8 million apps in Google Play. And I wanted parents and kids to have rules for any potential app that your kid could be on, because I can't know the latest. I'll never know them. So I created 16 buckets, 16 sets of sort of ways to handle any emerging app that's going to come up to give your kids guidance. Now, the next most difficult part of the book to write was tool number 3. When you look at the statistics, the mental health issues, depression, anxiety, suicidal ideation, self-harm, actual suicide, that is completely in line with the nexus to when our kids start entering digital technology. The numbers are rocketing. They're alarming. So what I wanted kids to do is have an exit strategy. I need kids to always have an exit strategy. And what I mean by that is they're going to find things coming at them externally. Hey, send me a nude picture. Hey, buy this pill. It's so easy. Just take a pill. It's not a big deal. Do this online challenge. It's so funny. You'll go viral. You know, there's a lot of stuff coming at them externally. There's also stuff that's brewing internally because of their engagement online. Think of girls who are home alone on a Friday night, looking at their friend's Instagram page saying, wow, all my friends are together again. This is the 3rd weekend. No one's included me. No one told me they were going to the mall. Or, gosh, this other girl, you know, she's so great at sports and she's so pretty. And I just, no matter how hard I try, I'm never succeeding. It's all internal. It's feeling depressed and anxious and isolated and alone. No one's even talked to you, but it's internal issues. So I need kids, whether something's coming at them externally or it's completely brewing internally, I need them to have an exit strategy. And to do that, kids to be able to know it so they can recognize it and they can block it. I need them to know what the issues are. So when it comes up, they can recognize it. Wait a minute. Wait, you're telling me to buy a pill online and it's no big deal and it's 15 cents. You're going to send it to my house? No, I know that's bad. I recognize this is not something I should be doing. And I'm going to block the person asking me to do that. Or I'm going to block the content that's harmful, that's creating internal issues for me. I'm going to get help. I'm going to talk to an adult. I'm giving them, sort of turning the lights on and all these dark spaces that nobody really talks about and giving them a roadmap to get out of it.
Yeah, and it goes back to what you said in the first part of the book and what you said at the first part of our talk. Those conversations, it's all based off conversations that we have to have, you know, because how many kids don't have an exit strategy because we haven't talked to them. We hadn't even brought up like, hey, you can block people if you see this, or, you know, you can do these things. And then the conversations of the internal of what you were saying with the missing out or the FOMO or whatever it is that they're feeling. Like, how many times do we just not have a conversation with our kids, or our kids don't have a conversation with us because there's not an open line for them to talk about those feelings, to talk about, oh, I do feel like I'm missing out. Because, I mean, I think adults feel that too.
Absolutely.
Like I sit and counsel with men who struggle with this. It's a very thing, and it's not just a kid's thing. This is a human thing. Like it's real. So develop an exit strategy. So define it, develop the brand, define who's in your community, develop the exit strategy. What's the last one? This one's interesting too.
You're not going to like it.
I know.
You're not going to like it.
I like it.
Give me a second.
I like it.
So it actually came up, you know, I've talked to so many kids, and I was in a high school, upper 2 level, 11th to 12th grade. And I asked the kids, the teachers, you know, sort of, we knew them. And I said, listen, can I do something with these kids? And I said, can I ask them to take their cell phones out? And the teachers were like, oh God, what's happening? I said, just give me a minute. And I said, all right, kids, my whole thing is for you to stay safe online. And so I want to challenge you, rule number 4, to start posting if you're a child that posts, some kids are not on social media posting, but if you're a child that posts, I want you to post or share content as if you're a celebrity. Post like a celebrity. And the teachers were like, oh my gosh, what is she saying? She's crazy. But the kids were like, wait a minute, this woman's finally making sense. What does she say? This is great. And so I said, but here's what I mean. Teachers are giving permission. I want you to take your cell phones out. And you see all the kids excited. They're taking cell phones. And I said, do you all have Instagram? Of course they do. I said, all right, let's go to the person you're following, the celebrity, musician, athlete, influencer, really famous people. And they're so excited. I said, all right, let's open their feed. There they go, opening their feeds. I say, okay, as soon as you look through their feeds, the first person who can get me a home address of any one of these guys, these famous people you follow, raise your hand. And you see the kids say, okay, I'll take the challenge. And they pull out their phone and they have their phone in their hands and they're going through and they're chatting. And they say, oh, I can't really get I can't get a home address. There's some home pictures, but I can't really say, oh, that's interesting. Okay. I say, well, usually they're wealthy. They're very wealthy. They're going to be in front of, they have great cars. They show their cars. Okay. The second you can get a license plate, raise your hand. And you can see the kids say, oh, actually, I know what post I'm going to. Hold on. I got this one. I know exactly what post. And they go through and they start even raising their hand. And then they say, wait a minute. That's so weird. He's posting in front of his G-Wagon, but I just realized he's blocking the license plate number. I'd say, oh, that's very interesting. I'd say, okay, well then, they're huge brands. They're people, but they're massive brands and they have business entities. Get me the business address. I'm not going to lie. I want to see Taylor Swift pull into her office. I want to see Jennifer Lopez, Ben Affleck, whomever, pull into their office, just get the business out. And you see, they take and they look and they say, I can't get any of it. And I say, exactly. Because what our kids fail to see is that these celebrities, and the book shares studies that show that our kids in Christian homes, non-Christian homes, it doesn't matter. They have influencers, celebrity type people they look up to. We all did. Doesn't matter the generation. These people that they look up, whose content they consume, our kids are not making the connection that these celebrities, before they posted even their first picture, have had teams in place to make sure you can never find them in real time, ever. They're not they're not doing a TikTok dance in front of their house with the 1407 sign there and you can tell what town it is. They're not exposing you to anything beyond the filtered content they want you to see because they're placing their physical safety first and foremost. Now, kids will say, well, I never even realized that. Exactly. Now, I will have a smart aleck that will say, well, what about the Kardashians? They post in real time. There's a lot of reality type stars that post in real time. And I say, that's a great point. But those people also travel with one or two sets of security. They have security teams that are physically with them at all times. Last time I checked, little Lindsay, little Jimmy, I don't see your security team walking around with you. And it's so simple, but they literally understand. And you change entire posting habits by making such a small comment that sheds light on the fact that and all the people I follow are actually really doing. They're not on Snap Map. Justin Bieber is not on Snap Map right now with Hailey Bieber showing you where they are in real time. Absolutely not. They have every app. They have all their social media, ironclad, safety secured so that you can never find them. And should you be able to find them, it is so curated with security because they put their safety first and foremost. So my whole thing is I'm not telling our kids not to engage online. I want them to engage knowing who their family is, what the family values are, what their brand will be so they can stay consistent to their core values, understanding who's in the community, who's trying to engage with them, having an exit strategy always for whatever comes at them externally or brews internally, and posting with their physical safety top of mind. And those 4 tools actually move the needle greatly for kids and for families.
Yeah, and we're so grateful for you to put this together, and we're just scratching the surface of all the content that's in the book. You just gave us, little mini trailers for each chapter or each power tool that I hope parents that are listening, go grab this book. There's so much great content. We're running out of time, but before we go, Megan, one of your favorite parts of the book, which I was thumbing through too. Let's talk about that at the end.
Well, one of the favorite parts is the resources for parents section, and it really dials down on very specific things like emojis and what do different letters stand for that kids are texting. And the one was, it was like parent in room, right? PIR or something. And so
yes.
I just thought, I was like, oh, I didn't even know that, So like ways that kids hide things or they don't want parents to see. They're like, hey, I'm letting you know my parent's in the room. But just tell us a little bit about like that resource section and maybe some feedback that you've gotten from that.
Yeah. And so I'll tell you, when part of the reason, again, I wrote the book is, we spoke to a 4th grade class and asked the kids, how many of you are on Kick? And it was like a sea of hands went up, and the parents were in the room, and I saw them say, what is Kick? And I realized, 1, our parents have no idea where their kids are online. And then 2, we showed a slide with all these emojis and acronyms, and you saw the kids say, oh, KMS means kill myself. ASL means age, sex, location. Oh, the gas emoji means like I'm high, I'm on something. Oh, the bus emoji means I'm looking for drugs. And again, parents had no idea. So they're not only are kids being raised in a completely different culture and world, literally, but they're speaking a different language, a language we don't even speak. And so at the time of writing the book, I went and looked through my own resources, stuff that I had known, looked at BARC, looked at other incredible resources, and really wanted to put an ultimate guide for parents together. So it, maybe you talk to your kids about it. You can even thumb through it together and say, hey, guys, is this true? Do kids talk? Which ones do you know? You don't have to blame your children or judge them. Like, hey, which ones have you seen? Like, do kids use this? Like, what are some that, are not known? And make it an informal way to talk to your children. But also, it's a great tool for parents to have. I had 3 kids, and I loved the book, What to Expect When You're Expecting, for all 3 of my pregnancies. And I really wrote this book as the ultimate thumb through resource for every family to have as they raise their children in the digital space. It's the What to Expect When You're Expecting for parents raising kids today. And I'm really glad that you found that resource helpful. I didn't know if it would be, but I felt it was important to include.
Yeah, there's so many. I'm thumbing through it right now. There's the slang terms and just different stuff. And, I thought I was pretty cool as a cool dad. I don't know a lot of this. I'm like, oh, man, I'm just getting old. My daughter the other day, she was on Roblox, and we've monitored a lot of that stuff, and she kept putting on there AFK, and I was like, what are you saying? Like, that sounds so bad. I'm away from keyboard. Like, I was like, oh, I'm so sorry. I was about to get mad. Like, what are you telling these people? And anyways, but
that's how they speak.
Yeah, it's super helpful. The resources and the slang and just different stuff. Like, I thought I knew stuff, but I'm learning through this. But, well, thank you so much for your time, and I hope parents are encouraged, not discouraged by this. Megan, thank you for, putting this together, because I think the more we can talk about technology in sense of understanding and conversation with our kids, the more open we can have that dialogue and continue to foster that growth. We can't get away from it. I'd love to get 300 acres and move away and be Little House on the Prairie, but that's not the world we live in. That's not our kids.
Well, your kids would still be online, so you could do that, but kids would still be online.
They would find a way. They would find a way. Well, thank you so much for your time. As we go, is there? Do you have a website or anything that you want to leave with our listeners?
Yeah, I post a lot on Instagram myself, a lot of parent videos at the Rania Report. The book is available on Amazon, but also Crime Stoppers has a lot of free resources. We give free presentations in schools, charter schools, private schools, churches, after-school groups, youth groups. Go to crime-stoppers.org. There's a lot of free material there to download. It's a community effort, and we're so honored and thankful to do the work we do. And we really thank you for having me today.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thanks for being here.
Thanks, guys.
So for all our listeners at home, we'll have all this content on the description below. We'll have all of this on empoweredhomes.org. Thank you so much. Appreciate you.
Thank you for having me. Take care, everybody.